break the spell.
Somalians ripped off that state for billions of dollars. Billions. Every year. Billions of dollars. And they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you. Okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks.
Because we know that the president oftentimes resorts to very bigoted, xenophobic, Islamophobic, racist rhetoric when he is trying to scapegoat and deflect from the actual failures that he has himself. And so to me, it is important for us, one, to remind folks that we are Americans. We're not going anywhere, and we will continue to be in this country. And two, that Minnesotans are resilient, and we will continue to thrive.
Peace and blessings, soldiers. Welcome to another episode of Break the Spell podcast. I am your host, Waterstyle, back with another one. Man, I know it's been a minute. It's taken me a while to get back on the podcast tip, but here I am. And once again, I feel compelled to have to come out and say something about what's going on right now in the news. So, get comfortable, get your popcorn, because I got some things to say. All right, soldiers, let's get to it. So, I'm sure by now many of you have seen this video of Trump going off on Minnesota politicians such as Ilhan Omar and, you know, his arch nemesis, Governor Walz, which I want to say this was inevitable. This was going to come at any point. We already knew this because, you know, Trump has a list of political enemies he wants to conquer. So this isn't surprising coming from him. And of course, he's going to use this fraud and the Somali community to get at his political rivals. At the end of the day, we understand that this is really what it's all about. If you follow my channel or have listened to a previous podcast, you know that we don't play political sides over here. We understand that they're both out for their own agendas to make money and to feed off of the American people, whichever way possible they're able to do that. They find very creative ways to do that. So with this coming out, that just is kind of a prime example of that. And people who also follow me know my music know that I am from Minneapolis. I no longer live there. I've been moved out of Minnesota for about 10 years now, but I spent the majority of my life in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So I understand the politics, the culture that goes on in that city. So I'm going to be giving my local perspective on all this going on, and I'm not going to come from a political perspective, but more of a perspective from a Black American in America. So first, I want to address what Trump said. Like I said, this is political, fire for him. He's trying to distract from the Epstein files, the Venezuela stuff. I mean, the man's got a lot going on. So any distraction is good enough, and this one is a major one. But at the same time, I don't want it to just be looked at as a distraction, because this is a very real thing that has been going on for, I want to say, almost up to maybe 15 years, maybe past that. People that are in Minneapolis or in the local area are very aware of the stories they've heard about these specific politicians that are being named in these fraud allegations as having ripped off people before. So these aren't just baseless allegations that I don't think should be ignored, regardless of how you feel about Trump and the fact that we know he's using this for his own agenda anyway. Now, from my perspective, when I was growing up in Minneapolis, I didn't personally go to school with Somalian people because I went to school before the influx of them came to Minneapolis. So, I'm seeing people online saying, oh, Minneapolis and Minnesota was 91% white before Somalians got here. And that's just not true. I went to school with people of every single race. It was completely mixed. There wasn't a majority of anybody. It was for real. It was a mixed pot for real. And I think all in all, that's a good thing, right? Because you can learn a lot about different people and their cultures when you're going to school with them. You're making them as friends. You know what I'm saying? But I never really got to know a Somalian person as a friend, like, or meet their family or anything. What I seen was mostly in passing, like working at stores, or, you know what I'm saying, down at a county building or something, you know what I mean? I never knew a person one-on-one. So, and like, I would never put a blanket statement on any group of people to say they're this way, they're the one way, you know what I'm saying? I just speak from my perspective. So like I said, from a Minneapolis Black American perspective is what I'm going to give you guys. Okay. So what really threw me into this story was not only the fact that I'm from Minneapolis, but over, I would say, the past 10 years, homelessness in Minneapolis has gotten completely out of control. Minneapolis has always had a homeless issue, but it was like you'd catch a couple people under a bridge, or, you know what I mean, maybe camping out in a park. A few people, like 4 at the max, you would see in one area. That's about as many as you would see, which still is shows you that the city ain't on their job. But now it has just completely turned into blocks of homeless encampments that are almost like their own little communities within the city. And news reports, as these encampments continue to grow, people are getting shot, people are getting hurt, all types of bad stuff is happening in these encampments, right? So, and the encampments continue to grow. And the politicians, it seems like they're throwing money at it, but they don't have a solution. But now that we come to see this fraud, entangled in this fraud, we see millions that were supposed to go to people that were in danger of being homeless or were homeless, were put on these lists, and they never received funds. They never received a call back. And you can only assume that these people are in these homeless encampments because they never received their housing because the funds were stolen. I have been homeless in Minneapolis, so I understand that it's very hard to get help. I was turned down help because there's programs that are set up for people that are, recovering drug addicts or immigrants. There's definitely, for those two groups, there is funding. From my experience, there's more funding for those two groups than there is for someone that just has a family, not on drugs, is not a immigrant, is a native Minnesotan just trying to get on the right track, not a criminal, has a family. Those people are often neglected the services in favor for, people on drugs or people that just got here in America. So that in itself creates this kind of, just disdain between people that can't get these services for people that are getting these services. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm saying the government creates this system that will keep people fighting each other because they play people off one another, which, like I said, comes back to the thing that Trump is doing. Now, with all that being said, the politicians are definitely playing their part, right? And, the worst thing about this is just the fact that a politician would work hand in hand with scammers to scam their own voters and people in their state. I mean, that is the lowest of the low right there. And really that's what we need to look at here. Aside from just it's Somalians that were doing it, they could not have done it without these politicians signing off on the fraud. So people might wonder, well, Are the politicians getting kickbacks? I mean, did they not think that they never get caught doing this? I mean, was it worth it? How much did they make? You know, all that is meant to come out. And the pandering that is going on, people that are in Minneapolis that are seeing this happen, and they're seeing the homeless encampments and the people not getting the stuff they need, and then they hear about this fraud. I mean, I don't know how I would feel. I would feel a little angry. But I would need to direct my anger to the politician, because they set this whole thing up. They've been running these scams for who knows how long and getting away with it. And I'm hearing the excuses why the politicians were doing this was they're saying when the Somalian community was like, hey, if you don't do this and give us this money, you're racist, right? This is what I'm hearing. I don't know. I don't have any facts to this, but this is what I'm hearing online. So that's a whole nother element right there, right? Because we know that after all the things, after George Floyd being murdered, and then the rioting, and then all the city in flames, people were really on high alert for racist type stuff, right? So this is a prime place where people are on high alert for racist stuff. So you throwing that around, it has power in communities like this. You know, the worst thing that some of these people can ever do, or is to be called a racist in their eyes. To me, it's sticks and stones. Like, you can call me whatever. I know what I am at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? So, but to these politicians, it's like they can't do that. And so the pandering is to try to appeal to people that they're not racist. Now, Mayor Fry, you see, most people know him as the man that was crying on the side of George Floyd's casket. I honestly believe he didn't give a damn about George Floyd, but that's my personal opinion. To me, I think he's all in this for some spotlight. I think he's Minnesota's Gavin Newsom, honestly. I don't know why they keep voting for this dude, but he panders to the point it's embarrassing. And as being somebody from Minneapolis, it's like, dude, you embarrassing everybody doing this. Like, he is known as Mayor Mom Jeans in Minneapolis. Everybody in Minneapolis, Mayor Fry is not representative of everybody in Minneapolis. I can tell you that right now.
Go home, Jacob, go home. Go home, Jacob, go home. Go home, Jacob, go home.
But for people that don't know Minnesota, don't know Minneapolis politics, they're just going to assume that everybody in Minneapolis is like this dude, and that's just not the case. It's just the people that don't agree with what's going on. They don't have a voice. They don't have a platform. They don't have money. You know what I'm saying? Everything's getting scammed and frauded, and, the whole system is loose. Obviously, if people are able to scam at this level and get away with it, then there's something in the machine that's definitely off. And so where I'm coming from is I'm saying, yeah, Trump might have been racist in what he said, how he said it, no doubt. But at the same time, he's shining a light on Minnesotans getting ripped off of their taxpayer money in the billions going to people that aren't sharing. Like, this is what I mean, man. Even if you are going to steal billions, right? Even though it's illegal, it's a crime. You know what I'm saying? You're using it to only help your own community while you watch homeless encampments grow and thousands of people are homeless around you. Like, these homeless encampments are right in the heart of where Somalian people are living. You know what I'm saying? And I don't understand why the wealth isn't being shared, you know? And other people are going to look at it like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're sucking off of everybody. And then you got the racist people on the right that are like, well, I don't give a damn. Just get them out of my country. But from my Black American perspective, you know what I'm saying? I consider myself a foundational Black American. I have ancestors that have been here for generations and were in slavery. You know, they were enslaved. So, you know, I have a stake in this country just like the next, you know. So I'm seeing all these videos of Somalian people saying, I don't want to say all. I seen a few videos of Somalian people saying, man, can you help me? They done deported me back to Somalia. I don't want to be here. Can y'all just help me? And the thing is, as a Black American, and having experienced living with Somalian people, amongst Somalian people in Minneapolis, because I lived in South Minneapolis for most of my adult life, which is where most of the Somalian people migrated into in the city of Minneapolis. So, I seen the restaurants go up and the community centers, you know what I'm saying? I didn't see any mosques when I lived there. I think they started building those after I had left. And I wasn't there when they have the call to prayer. Never heard that. But that's what people are saying is happening there too. So the thing is, I feel like Minneapolis has lost being Minneapolis, is what I'm saying. Like, I am all for diversity. We had so many people of so many different ethnicities in Minneapolis, and that's what makes it beautiful. But the thing is, there's a blend. It's evened out. You know what I'm saying? And everybody kind of integrates. That's what America is about. And I think the Somalian community doesn't want to integrate as a whole into American society. For whatever cultural reasons, like, I don't know. I don't know, you know, but it ain't gonna work in America. And I think they gonna find that out the hard way, you know, and I think they were also tricked by these politicians to think that these politicians are just gonna let them do whatever they want to do, have their back, they're number one over everybody else, and giving them a false sense of security in their community. Because when these politicians go down, if they go down, and that's whatever go down looks like, it doesn't necessarily mean jail. It could just mean shame and resign, or it could just mean, you know, it could mean a lot of different things. But at the end of the day, that politician gonna be all right. That politician gonna make it. That politician got money. Guess who's gonna look bad at the end of the day? The Somali community. You gonna have to wear that stain of fraud because you got tricked into listening to some politicians that acted like they cared about you, they favored you, as long as they was getting a cut off of the money. And to watch Mayor Fry and the police chief say they gonna stop ICE is crazy to me, because you're bringing all this craziness to people and residents that ain't got nothing to do with this. They ain't got nothing to do with this. And now you got ICE in their neighborhood, and you got the police saying that they not going to help ICE, and you got the mayor caping for one group of people over another. It's just a mess. It's just a mess. And within all this, you have a community that doesn't want to integrate with anybody around them, and sometimes looks down on other groups around them. I'm just going to keep it real. I'm not saying all, but there's something in the culture where they just group together. And there's nothing wrong with that. But in America, you have to integrate to survive. And the thing I'm saying is, Black people in America already know this. Everybody in America already know this. You're not going to survive like that. And the politician's not going to have your back. And I think this is going to be a hard lesson to learn for the Somali community. And like I said, it's going to be a stain that's going to sit long past Trump and Mayor Fry and Keith Ellison and Governor Walz and all these people that played a part in making bank off of all this fraud, right? So my best advice to the Somali community, because now I see a lot of Somali people coming online saying, yeah, there's fraud. Yeah, they be scamming. Let's call it out. And my thing is, I'm cool with that. That's what's up. That's what you need to do to survive at now, to keep your image. You don't want to be labeled a scammer. Like, I can understand trying to say, hey man, that ain't me, and like I said again, Black Americans in America understand this. We don't all want to be labeled because there's some bad apples, right? But we'll call out the bad apples. We call out the bad apples. And you know what I'm saying? We don't look at that as it's shameful to call out criminals in our community. The only way you're going to think like that is if you're a criminal yourself. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I think they haven't gotten to understand that point yet. They've been trusting the politicians. So at the end of the day, though, stealing from homeless people and kids that are starving children, you preying on the poorest of the poor. So I can't even really sit back and be like, oh, well, mistakes happen. No, man. Because I've been homeless. I've been on the other end of that trying to get services and I get told no. And I've been there. And I had kids, and I'm from Minneapolis, and I got shut down because it's got to go to somebody else. That's, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, so who am I supposed to be mad at? The government or people that are coming over here looking down on me and mine? And that is the conflict that's going to brew. And so, like I said, it don't matter what happened to the politicians, dog. The damage is done as far as image. And I think the Somalian community is just going to have to work on upping its image to the public. Because, like, this don't look good, man. It don't look good, dog. Especially when you got Minnesotans in need in the street. The evidence of the fraud is like, you could look at it and see it. You could see the progression of the camps. You could see the progression of everything going to shit. Because it ain't like Minnesota is broke. They got good money to help these people. I know that. I live there. Minnesota is a very rich state. People got money in Minnesota. And people are willing to give in Minnesota. And that's what the politicians and the scammers played on. They say it's Minnesota nice for a reason. And they knew that. And they preyed on the heartstrings of people that actually don't want to see people doing bad. Want to help people. And that's the thing. And another thing is, I'm seeing other people saying, well, they should have sent them down south. So then they could have been with black people and learned how to get along with black people. There's plenty of black people in Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota. I don't know why people think that it's just a bunch of white people in Minnesota, because that is not the case. Okay? So I'm tired of hearing that too. They know what it's like to be around black people. So I think it's just a lot of misunderstanding because people don't understand the area, you know what I'm saying? And that's why I'm giving my local perspective on it. Because what I'm telling you, you're not going to hear the news telling you. You're not going to hear the mayor telling you. Maybe on those walk-up videos where people are like interviewing people, like, how do you feel about it? You're going to hear it there. And if you watch those, listen, because they're going to be saying the same thing I'm saying. Because for the most part, the people are done, dude. They don't want to deal with none of this. They see Minneapolis going down the tube and St. Paul going down the tube. And the politicians that run the city, they've been running it for like 10, 12 years. So I don't know. Like I always say, I don't believe there's a political solution. But at the end of the day, you got to learn to care about your community. This is what it's really all about. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what country you come from, because this is America. We have to look out for everyone. And the politician is always going to find a way to pick a certain group to play it off another. And this is just another prime example of that. And it's working beautifully. So my honest conclusion to all this, let's start with what I wish to happen. Let's start with that. So I wish that the politicians all got busted They all were forced to pay all the money back. All the criminals that had anything to do with this was all faced to pay the money back. Right? If people are getting fraudulent benefits, it needs to end and go to people that need it, that ain't fraudulent or committing fraud. You need to get them people out of the tents and put them in some housing. Get the funds for that back somehow. I don't know how. I'm just saying, if I'm wishing for a perfect ending, that's what it would be. And the Somalian people realize that they have to integrate. They have to accept other people like other people are accepting them as a whole. I'm not saying, like I said, every Somalian ain't like that, right? We know that. But as a whole, and maybe as generations go, this will change. But this is a hard lesson to learn, man. Right? So what I see happening realistically is Governor Walz, Keith Ellison, Mayor Fry, the police chief, all these people that are playing all these damn games, right? I don't see any of them going to jail. I don't care how much fraud is involved. I think we in the billions or something now. That don't matter, because it's been going on for so long. And like I said, the people in the local area been known about this for years, and nothing's happened, and they keep escaping justice. So Trump putting a spotlight on it is going to take some people down, but it's going to be people under these politicians. And they've already taken 81, 87 or something people down. And like I said, the Somalian people are going to be left holding the bag, man. So you got to make good with your neighbors. You got to start investing in the community now that you've done all of this. Well, not y'all as a whole, but you know what I'm saying. So many of y'all have. The best thing to do is just be like, hey, man, as a whole didn't do this, and we're going to work with y'all to help bring the city back. Right? Let us pay back what has been taken. That would be the right thing to do. And maybe they will. I don't know. But the fraud allegations and the cases, they just keep coming out. I've been hearing about this for years. I've been mad because, like I said, I'm seeing the homeless encampments just grow. Like, there's so many people in these homeless encampments at this point. It's crazy. And it makes no sense in a state that's got money and services provided, set up specifically for these people, that and it ain't going to them. Where's it going to? And now we have the answer. And so it coming from me, I'm happy that he said it. I really am. Because it's got everybody all shook and riled up and looking now, right? They looking now like, oh wait, as a nation they looking now, where before it was just kind of under the radar. Now they looking. And yeah, I don't care what side of the political aisle you on. If you ripping off Americans, dog, you gotta go. It's just what it is, right? So I'm glad he said what he said. Somebody had to say it. Definitely not in the way he said it, but I mean, people have been trying to blow the whistle and, they ain't hearing them. So here we are. And I can only wish the best for the people that are stuck in this situation. I really don't know if the National Guard is going to be even called in. That's going to be a whole nother thing. Because we definitely don't want that. Because that's going to bring out people wanting to do stuff. And we just don't want that. But Trump likes to send in military on people, so it's very, very likely he might do that. And when we got the mayor and the police chief saying they're not going to help ICE, it's like a green light to send in these soldiers. So then we don't have wars on the street of Minneapolis for what? Because politicians are scamming people? This is where we at. And this is why I don't vote. Because the government creates all the problems. Because without the government, we wouldn't have none of these problems, man. The government plays with people's lives. So let's go to the favorite part of the section where everybody battling it out. Everybody mad as hell. Elon Musk's X. I also wanted to cover how they're using racism as a way to try to say, oh, you can't ask about fraud. I'm seeing Governor Walz do this. And let's be real, ain't got nothing to do with no racism, dog. You ripping off people of all colors, dog. Let's keep it real. Where's the racism in that? You an equal opportunity scammer.
The absolutely pathetic usage of a slur. Not to me. I don't care what he calls me. He calls me many things. But don't think that doesn't hurt our children. Don't think it doesn't hurt people who are dealing with this. And this is not normal. It's not both sidesism. We're solving problems. We're making life more affordable. We're talking about bringing people in, and we're getting this.
See, but I guess it's racist if we say, oh, because 81 of the 87 people were Somalian, and all these scams were set up through Somalian businesses and stuff, that we can't say, well, what the hell going on in the Somalian community? We racist now? See, when they started saying that, I knew right away that these politicians was getting kickbacks off of this money. Because that is the flimsiest excuse I have ever heard. But because it's Minnesota, dog, they think it's going to work. That's the crazy thing. And I think without the George Floyd murder happening in Minneapolis, they would never even think that that's a good excuse to try to cover up billions of fraud by saying, don't ask about it because you're racist. Like, what are we doing, right? So I'm not never one to say racism doesn't exist. I've experienced it. I just experienced it last summer. Okay. But I know what real racism is. And I know the little pandering fake political racism BS y'all be trying to say. And the thing is, it takes away from the real racism that is happening to people in this country. When you sitting over there and saying, oh, we can't ask the Somalian community about the fraud because we're racist if we do. And then say, oh, well, you must be MAGA if you... They ain't got nothing to do with no MAGA, yo. I don't vote for Trump. I don't vote for Kamala. You ripping off Americans is a problem, dog. It's just, like, I don't understand that. So, hopefully it gets resolved. Like, I'm mad about it, like I said, because my perspective is Minnesotans is intense, dog. They're intense. You know how cold it is in Minneapolis right now? It's like 7 degrees. And these people are intense. Because their politicians are stealing their money for housing. I mean, man, it don't get much more just disgusting than that, right? And so that's why I was really compelled to say something, because I feel like underneath it all that's getting lost is the people of Minneapolis and Minnesota. Forget all the political stuff. We talk about real life situations for people. Families with kids that were waiting for housing now have to live in a tent and have to worry about being shot at or assaulted or who knows. Hopefully they don't get addicted to drugs while they living in the camp. You know what I'm saying? I mean, these are real life situations because a politician wants to steal money with scammers. That's what we dealing with. If we can get some Minnesotans out of them tents and into some housing and get some services, Trump can say whatever the hell he want to say. He's already said so many things at this point. I'm over it. Let's get some stuff done. Let's help some people. Let's stop scamming. I don't agree with probably 90% of what Trump is doing, dog. Like I said, I ain't vote for him. I'm not over here caping for him. But I don't know how else really this specific fraud situation in Minnesota was ever going to get national attention. And that's why it continued for so long. And that's why Minneapolis is in the dire straits it is. Not the only reason, but it's a good chunk of a reason of many other things that are going on. But I mean, this don't help, right? And I want to see my hometown just dissolve and just become, tent city. And that don't mean I'm racist. Ain't got nothing to do with that. So if you watch news and you see the continuous coverage of this, please keep my opinion in your thoughts with how the media is moving, how the politicians are moving. Just remember, and you'll see, it's all political theater at the end of the day. And you're not going to hear about the real Americans on the streets that are suffering from this stuff that's going on. So yeah, that's it. Hope y'all enjoyed it. I'm full of unpopular opinions. I'm sure I pissed some people off. I always do, because I'm not a voter. You know what I'm saying? So I give it to both sides. I don't give a damn. Y'all know that about me. So with that being said, y'all, stay blessed. If you're in Minneapolis, salute to you, man. I hope y'all can get it together. You got to stand up to these politicians because they ripping y'all off. It's infuriating. But at the end of the day, we got each other. Come together as a full community, and you're unstoppable. So until then, soldiers, stay blessed. And thank you for watching another episode of Break the Spell Podcast. I'm out.
Every vote they ask for is another receipt. Every dollar they take leaves us under their feet. They preach like saints, or they rob like thieves. Pocket the promises, nothing but schemes. They smile for the cameras, tightening the chains. We're waking up now and calling their names. Break, spell.